ثورة قانون وحريات وديمقراطية، هكذا يرى سجناء الرأي الحالة اليوم في تركيا. وهل باتت الحكومة التركية تتصرف بمعايير مزدوجة فيما يتعلق بحرية الرأي وتقمعها؟ سجناء الرأي في تركيا من الداخل. معكم زينب الصفار، تابعونا. إذا كان بيتك من زجاج فلا ترمي الناس بالحجارة كما يقال في المثل الشعبي. فتركيا التي حملت لواء الديمقراطية وكانت رأس حربة الحرب على النظام السوري من أجل إعطاء الشعب الحريات المدنية وإقرار حقوق الإنسان، هي الدولة التي يسجن فيها أكبر عدد من الصحفيين في العالم. حملة اعتقالات طاولت الآلاف من الناشطين والأكاديميين والإعلاميين والمحامين والطلاب والأعضاء المنتخبين والناشرين وحتى المترجمين الأتراك بذريعة مكافحة الإرهاب، والتهمة دعم هؤلاء لحقوق المواطنين الأكراد في تركيا بحسب المراقبين. عائشة بيركتي من بين المعتقلات في السجون التركية. هي مترجمة وباحثة وناشطة حقوقية بارزة ومن مؤسسي المحكمة الدولية حول العراق عام 2005. في 3 تشرين الأول أكتوبر عام 2011 اعتقلتها الشرطة بموجب قانون مكافحة الإرهاب تحت بند الانتماء إلى منظمة غير مشروعة بتهمة التخطيط لتنظيم تظاهرات بهدف زعزعة استقرار الدولة التركية. محاكمتها لا تزال جارية وقد ترمى في غياهب السجن لمدة تصل إلى 15 عاما في حال إدانتها. في شهر تشرين الثاني نوفمبر من عام 2012 زار وفد من مؤسسة بن الدولية أنقرة للتعبير عن قلقه إزاء الارتفاع الهائل في مقاضاة الكتاب والصحفيين في العامين الماضيين، مشيرا إلى أن أكثر من 70 كاتبا وصحفيا يقبعون حاليا في السجن، كما أن 60 غيرهم على الأقل من الكتاب والناشرين والصحفيين يواجهون المحاكمة. محامية عائشة بيركتي ومستشارة حزب السلام والديمقراطية المعارض لدى مفوضية صياغة مسودة الدستور الجديد في البرلمان التركي ومؤسسة منظمة لا حكومية تعنى بتوثيق ما يتعلق بالمفقودين في تركيا، الأستاذة أوزغور سيفجي غورال، كيف تنظر إلى قضية اعتقال بيركتي وما التهديد التي تمثله هذه المرأة على المجتمع التركي ولماذا؟ Ozgur Sevgi Goral, advisor for the Peace and Democracy Party BDP in the Parliamentary Constitution Commission and human rights attorney and activist, welcome to the Inside.
Hello.
Hello, you're most welcome, ma'am. Well, in October 2011, Aisha Berkte was detained and held in prison and held in pre-trial detention actually ever since on charges of terrorism because of being an active member of the BDP party. Why is all this taking place against Aisha?
You know, there are at the moment more than 7,000 people in the prisons of Turkey. They are incarcerated, they are taken in the prisons without solid crimes, but they are only incarcerated there for being in part of our daily basis political activations. So
they are political prisoners.
Exactly, they are political prisoners, and they are not related, as the government is saying, with the violence activities, but still they are incarcerated. I mean, like political hostages in the prisons of Turkey. So she is one of them, I think.
But why are they being held there?
You know, the Kurdish question, which is the most important political issue in Turkey for more than 30 years now, which have like a military part, meaning there's an ethnic conflict, ongoing ethnic conflict, and there's a political part as well. You know, we have this political party, Peace and Democracy Party, which is coming from a tradition of other political parties which were closed. It began with People's Labour Party in the 90s, and then it has been shut down, and there are more than 10 political parties now which were shut down and new are
because
coming.
of being affiliated to the PKK party.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this movement has lots of experiences of struggle. They have been killed in the streets, they have been incarcerated, they have been enforced, disappeared. Nowadays, like for more than 3 years, the new method is the prison instead of killing or disappearing. So we have the habit of this.
But Oster, what kind of menace does a person like Ayşe Berktay pose to the Turkish authorities and to the Turkish society?
Okay, Ayşe Berktay was one of the member of the Istanbul City Assembly of the party. You know, there are several people who are organizing cities or in Turkey's wide. He was a member in Istanbul's city, and she was militating for women's rights as well. So I think she was like a politician who was militating for the emancipation of women and for the democratic rights of the oppressed people, including Kurdish people as well. So I don't think that she's a threat. But you know, if you are looking with a very narrow mainstream statist approach, Ayşe Berktay and several people may be perceived as threats, but it's not like solid legal discussions, but rather political discussions, you know.
That's why the case of Ayşe is considered a case of unjustified detention.
Exactly, exactly.
What are you doing in this process, since you were one of the lawyers of Ayşe Berktay?
Yeah. Okay, as I said before, she's not alone. She's like with 7,000 people. We are reviewing the indictments about them, and we are seeing that, I mean, there are only two things that the indictments are based. The first one is witnesses who are talking on their activities, but we don't know the identities of the witnesses. They can belong to the police forces, for instance, or state forces. We don't know the name, the identity of the witnesses. We are just informed in the indictment that there are some witnesses who are talking about them, right? Saying that, yes, Ayşe Berktay is affiliated with PKK activities and etc. But can you imagine some witness that you don't know the name, the affiliation or anything, and you are just trying to prove that he or she is not telling the truth? So the first base is this kind of witnesses that we don't know the names. And the second ones is that they are taking the activities that they are doing. For instance, if they are going abroad for party activities, or
conferences,
if they are exactly conferences,
workshops,
manifestations, workshops, feminist affiliations and everything, right? Meetings, they are putting it together and they are making an amalgam to say that, see, they are militating for PKK activities. But you can put it everything in its...
Ayşe, because of her participation in the World Tribunal on Iraq and because of traveling from one place to the other for the different sessions and then back to the culminating session here in Istanbul, they said that she is, this is part of her terrorism, case.
You know, Ayşe Berktay is a very prominent militant of peace and democracy in Turkey. She is a well-known person with her struggle and activities, right? She was a member of this Iraq Tribune, and she is active in different parts of the civil society and political sphere as well. I mean, related with, as I said before, minority rights or women's rights and everything. So she was traveling to make all these activities. And if you are putting them in a box and saying that you see she is making the propaganda of PKK, it's so easy, but she's a well-known activist, and you know, as activists from all around the world, you have to travel and meet other people, tell your ideas and learn from them and everything.
Of course, to communicate and to interact. Sure.
Exactly.
Now, as you said, that thousands and thousands of people are being held and detained in prisons and jailed under the rubric of counterterrorism operations and whatever. What does that really indicate? As a human rights attorney, what can you say about this?
The first thing to say is that legal legislation in Turkey should be changed. I think it shows that we have a very very broad definition of terrorism that you can put even this interview in the context of the terrorism if you are criticizing the government.
Can you tell us about something that's happened with you concerning an interview that you've been...
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
I worked in a university in Istanbul as an academician, and I'm a PhD student in the meantime in Paris. So I participated to a television show on the Kurdish question, right? And I told my ideas, which are not very in line with the official ideas. I said that you cannot name terrorists like around 3 million people. If 3 million people are struggling for something, you need to hear this voice. And these citizens are equal citizens of Turkey as well, the ones who are killed and incarcerated in the Kurdish cities. So the university didn't like my ideas, so I was fired because of this interview. Now a litigation process is ongoing related with this, so I don't want to comment too much on this. But the only thing that I can say, you can put anything in this broad definition of terrorism, right? An interview, a speech, a political party meeting, a manifestation, everything, because it's too broad that it includes nearly everything that you are saying against the government or against the official view of the state. So I think the first thing is to change this broad definition, which is legal definition, which is drafted under the Code of Anti-Terror Law, right? But the second thing is you need to change the mind of the jurists as well.
The mentality.
The mentality of the jurists as well, yeah. The judges are so conservative. You know, there was a research on the judges of Turkey, right? How they are perceiving the law, how they are perceiving the legal system in Turkey, etc. One of the most prominent professors in Ankara, Mithat Sancar, made the research, conducted the research. According to the research, in Turkey, more than 60% of the judges think that if a terrorist is captured, quote unquote, a terrorist is captured, you can use torture to make him or her talk. So it is a very striking example to show the mentality of the judges as well, right? If someone who is affiliated with PKK or with BDP, it doesn't have to be PKK as well, BDP as well, I mean, torture, incarceration, unjust treatment, it is legitimate for them. So
Though the BDP, one here comes to understand that it's part of the parliament.
Yes.
It has a constituency and many people who vote for the BDP.
Yeah, for more than 4 million people throughout
So you cannot just, throw all those people in prison or torture them just, to make them give up the BDP.
Yeah, they tried to do this, but I think at some point you understand that it's not possible. You know, the Kurdish question has a long history. Okay, it began like the beginning of the 1980s during the military coup environment. It was a military coup in 12 September 1980. So it began with the military coup environment. The Kurdish struggle began in this political climax. And then it continued throughout the 90s, right, where there are much more severe mechanisms under the name of struggle against the terror. Now we are seeing the 2000s where we don't see too much disappearances or killings, although we are seeing these types of human rights violation as well. But if we are comparing to 90s, it's less, I would say. But we are seeing now huge incarcerations, right? They are not killing people in the streets, they are not disappearing them, but they are putting in the prison. And
what will be the end of putting those people in the prison?
The first thing, I mean, we lost lots of members of our political party. It means it will stop a little bit the political party. Imagine a political party where more than 3,000 people are incarcerated. Even AKP could not stand these conditions. You see what I mean? We are now beginning to work for the local elections, but lots of important local leaders where we have connections between local people and the party mechanisms are incarcerated. So the first thing, it's like weakening the political party. I mean, And the second thing, I think it's intimidation, you know. If you are militating, if you are following these ideas, if you are doing some things with them, if you are organizing party meetings and everything, you can be incarcerated. This message.
So, right, Ożgur, we're going to stop now for a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk more about the developments, the recent developments in Aisha Berktay's case. The Inside will be back after the break. Stay tuned.
المدافعون عن حقوق الإنسان في تركيا كيف ينظرون إلى اعتقال سجناء الرأي، وما التهديد الذي تمثله الناشطة والمترجمة عائشة بيركتاي على المجتمع التركي؟
There are like more than thousands of women who are incarcerated all around Turkey. And Büşra Ersanlı, Ayşe Berktay and other prominent intellectuals like Yüksel Genç, who was a journalist in Özgür Gündem, and lots of other people who are not known by their names, but like activists, local leaders, women rights activists and everything, so they are incarcerated as well. I think the government is aware of the fact that it's a little bit, they cannot continue with this politics, you know, to incarcerating everything who is affiliated with BDP. I think the first thing, they know that it is not a sustainable strategy in the long term, right? And secondly, now we are aware that the state is negotiating with Abdullah Öcalan, the PKK leader, and there's an ongoing process for peace, hopefully. It's like really very beginning, so we don't have too many ideas about the content of what's going on. But we do know that there's a will coming from both sides. So I think if this process will be continuing, they will release some of the political prisoners, hopefully all of the political prisoners who are not really related with violence activities, which makes nearly all of them. So I think if the negotiations will be continuing, they will be released. They should be released.
This is one of the major conditions that Mr. Öcalan, put on the table. Let's wait and see. But according to Aisha, in an open letter, she said that whatever is taking place against her and her fellows who are incarcerated is a crime or is a massacre of law, democracy and freedom.
Exactly, because as I told you before, it is not related with the legal concerns. They don't have solid legal grounds in order to incarcerate them, but they are like more, political hostages really in the hands of the state. So
right. Well, Ożgur, Aisha Çubukçu in The Guardian asked, but is this the most that the peoples of Turkey, the Middle East and the world could hope for? Why should contemporary Turkey constitute the limit of our political imagination? Why should the state that parades its development through drones it purchases from the US, a state that imprisons professors, journalists, translators, lawyers, workers and students, and treats as terrorists the members of a political party representing millions of citizens, why should such a state be one to promote or follow? How far do you agree or disagree with this?
I agree and I disagree at the same time. I agree with the fact that Turkey, as its current political situation represents something very underdeveloped in terms of democracy and peace. But I also would like to emphasize the fact that we have a solid tradition of struggle, for democracy, for our own rights and everything. For instance, if you are looking at the Kurdish people's problems, right? Kurdish people's democracy problems. I'm now like 36 years old, and when I was a child, I'm not a Kurdish person, I'm a Turkish person, grew up in the western part of Turkey. When I was a child, I was hearing through TV stations that there is nothing such Kurd, right? They are Turks, but as they were walking in the mountains, and then their food making sounds like Turk, Kurd, they were named as Kurds. It's a silly argument. Nowadays, nobody, even the ultra-nationalists Turks, right? Even the fascist movement will not argue and say that there is nothing such Kurd.
But according to some, they want them to be invisible.
Yes, yes. So it's difficult to argue it now, right? But they were arguing it 30 years ago. And 20 years ago, they were saying there is no language such as Kurdish. It does not exist, right? I don't say that it's a paradise now that everyone accepts Kurdish as an equal right to Turkish. No, it is not the case. For instance, they are saying that Kurdish is not adequate for, it's not a civilization language, for instance, which is a racist argument as well. But something is changing because you need to see thousands and thousands of people who lost their lives for these changes in Turkey, you know? Lots of Kurdish people, Turkish people, we have lots of martyrs of democracy in Turkey who were, I mean, disappeared, killed under the torture and everything, but who still stood up for their rights, right? It was even worse. So I don't agree that they will make this country like a country of terror because we will not let them to do it.
It seems that you have lots of red lines in Turkey.
Yeah.
You know, the Armenian genocide is a red line. The Kurdish question is a red line. Free speech has become a red line, and it's getting more and more red, and even much more red. So
yes, but again, for instance, let's talk about the Armenian genocide. Okay, 10 years ago, you couldn't dare to say that yes, it is a genocide. But for more than 3 years now in Istanbul, every 24th of April, which is the anniversary, unfortunately, Memorial Day of the genocide, we are gathering together with the names and pictures of those people, and we are saying that we are ashamed of this genocide, and we are using the term genocide in the Taksim district, in the Taksim Square. It was like unimaginable 10 years ago. So what I'm trying to say that, okay, we don't have a solid democracy, okay, we have a very authoritarian government and everything, but we have millions of people who are struggling against it as well, and we are developing our space as well. I think contradictory things coexist in Turkey at the moment, you know?
Yes. While talking here concerning the issue of the human rights and the women's rights in particular, and Aisha was the co-founder of the Women for Women Human Rights, the WWHR, and she also authored the pamphlet related to this kind of association. What can you tell us about Aisha, the author and the co-founder of such an association, in light of which you can tell us a bit about the status of the women's rights in Turkey?
I think Aisha is like several other women, including me, who began to struggle for women's rights, and then who were related with the Kurdish movement as well, because you know the Kurdish movement is very keen on women's rights. There are lots of Kurdish women who are representing the political party. They have like the gender equality in the party, etc. So if you are beginning to work on the women's rights in Turkey, it means that at some point you will be touched by BDP policies. So, you know, it's like when a group, when a disadvantaged group begin to claim for their rights, they begin to have much severe attitude vis-a-vis coming from the people who are holding the power as well. So it's the same thing with women's problems, women's rights in Turkey as well. We have now, compared to 20 years ago, for instance, we have a much widespread knowledge of women's rights. Ordinary women wants to take lives up to their hands. So the system and men, namely, are resisting against it. You see what I mean? So that's why it is too violent. And in addition, I would add the government's very conservative approach, seeing women not as individuals, but as part of the family, you know, as only wives and mothers and docile members of the family, but not as individuals who have their rights. You know, this conservative approach saying that women and men are not equal. The Prime Minister is repeating it periodically saying that women and men are not equal.
Ożgór, how did you get involved in all this activism and in the struggle for women's rights and human rights?
I don't know, my mother was a feminist, you know, she was a single mother. My father is dead when I was a child, so she grew us alone. She was a very strong figure as a feminist. And when I came to Istanbul, I began to work for women's rights. And then when I was 19 years old, in the context of a women's rights organization, we went to Diyarbakir, you know. This is the first time I saw Diyarbakir, and I was shocked, you know, to see Diyarbakir when I was 19 years old.
Why?
Because, I mean, the city was totally different from the Western cities. I mean, you were seeing soldiers and police officers. I mean, they were more crowded to the local members of the city. There was an atmosphere of fear and struggle at the same time. You see what I mean? It was tense and very political, but it was fascinating. So it was the first time that I saw, okay, there are other ethnic minorities, ethnic people in Turkey, namely the Kurdish people, who has their own language. It was the first time when I saw that the Kurdish language exists, you know, and it's very different from the Turkish language, and I was fascinated by this fact.
Right, Ożgór Sefgi غورال, advisor for the Peace and Democracy Party, BDP, in the Parliamentary Constitution Commission, and human rights attorney. Many thanks indeed for joining us.
You're welcome, thank you very much.
You're most welcome, my dear. إذا لقاء جديد في الأسبوع المقبل مع ضيف جديد وقضية جديدة، ودائما من الداخل. للمزيد من التواصل بريدنا theinside@almayadeen.net. إذن theinside@almayadeen.net من كل فريق عمل من الداخل من إسطنبول تركيا. دمتم بخير.